Welcome back to Investment 360. Joining us from Cape Town now, Greg Rawlins from Grindrod Investments, talking about global properties and specifically about the Grindrod Global Property Income Fund, which is a global property fund available to local investors. I'm going to throw it to you now, Greg, to give us a little bit more information on this front.
Bronwyn, it's addressing the asset class of global property and exploiting the opportunities brought about by a greater selection of property that comes about when you're investing in global listed property.
Your main focus currently US and Australia. You've also done very well out of Canada. Are these the top geographies in your book?
The US will always be a top geography merely by the mere size and the choice that is available. But I've migrated from Canada, where I did well over the last 2 years, to Australia, where there's good prospects. So at the moment, the main focus is the US and Australia, and very little exposure to Canada.
Greg, just from my perspective, why would I want to go into a geographically diversified portfolio? Why wouldn't I just want to concentrate on the US market?
The main advantage is that you're exposed to different cycles. The global property cycle is not tightly synchronized to a global cycle. So there's each economic zone has a different growth path and a different cycle. So you and I can increase our exposure to those that are on the up and reduce, or if not even have no exposure to those ones that are the laggards. And as a result of that, you can increase your total return, which was reflected in the portfolio's performance up to date.
Give us a little more clarity on your performance against your chosen benchmark, and again, if you can take us through the rationale for your chosen benchmark.
Well, most global property benchmarks have a weighting according to the market capitalization of those particular economic zones relative to the total. So it's not much different to any other global REIT index. We just happen to have chosen the GPR 250. And the strategy is actually to avoid those countries like Japan and the UK that haven't performed too well of late, and increase the exposure to those that are showing potential or have shown potential. And as a result, it's been able to outperform the index by quite a significant amount.
And let's just focus on that outperformance before we go back to Siraj on this. Your inception date, 16th of April 2009, against your benchmark since inception, you've performed a 67.6% return versus a 57.4% return. So certainly strong outperformance there from benchmark, and your annualized return since the inception at 26.4% versus benchmark of 24.4%. Just touching on a couple of the stocks that you have thrown forward to in our preparation for this discussion, I wanted to focus on Digital Realty. Sounds very, very interesting, considering that it's set to benefit from social networking sites like Facebook and LinkedIn, perhaps capitalize on that social media boom. Greg, take us through this investment.
Yes, it's a very interesting property. They specialize in providing mass storage facilities, properties that are geared up to house mass storage facilities. And there's an insatiable demand for storage. And if you can imagine organizations like Facebook, every image that passes through its systems has to be stored for a certain amount of time. And these require really specialized properties, drawing a vast amount of electricity. And you have to have standby power and chillers, so there's huge barriers to entry. And the growth has been phenomenal. Just at the beginning of the year, Digital Realty announced a 28% increase in its distribution over the previous quarter. And their clients are taking them to various geographies because they want their data dispersed all over the world to reduce the risk. So there's a very interesting growth path for that particular REIT.
Yeah, I like the story on that, and we all know where Facebook is going. Greg,
Certainly.
The performance has been fantastic, and given what developed market equities have done, would you still going forward prefer the property sector over the other sectors, equities, bonds, cash?
It's certainly ahead of bonds and cash. That is a very easy answer. But with regard to equities, Siraj, that's quite a difficult answer. You know, you do have the IT sector, and certain sectors within that are doing exceptionally well. But with a total return that we've achieved so far, it'll be hard to beat.
Focusing on Campus Crest, it's a U.S. property fund that deals in student accommodation. You've got some very interesting stocks in this portfolio. The investment thesis, or the investment case rather, behind Campus Crest?
Campus Crest is an apartment REIT, and more specifically student accommodation. And there is quite a few student accommodation REITs globally. But this one specifically has focused on the smaller campuses, not the Yales and the Harvards of this world. And they have secured 65 sites. And they, at this stage, have got just the infrastructure to put in 5 years, so they're going to ramp that up. But there again, it's also got barriers to entry, because once you've got the accommodation across the road from the university, it's very difficult for a competitor to come in. And there's also something that the market hasn't really picked up, in my opinion. At this stage, 1% of its turnover or income is generated from other income. And that is, for example, they put in bandwidth in the buildings and they sell it to the students, and they get revenue from that. And they plan to ramp that up from 1% to 15%, over and above the fact that they have got this low-profile approach to going to the smaller universities and technical colleges in the States. So that, and it's also just entered into the indexes, so that particular REIT shows a lot of promise.
Greg, just from my perspective, I take it it's a US dollar denominated fund. How would my investors get in? Would they use asset swap capacity, foreign allowance? Or?
Not at all. It's as though you're entering a normal South African collective investment scheme. We secure asset swap capacity and for free, and we pass it on to our investors. So it was as though you were filling in a normal application for a South African domiciled collective investment scheme. No special administrative procedures are required.
And then, sorry, any distributions out of that back into rands?
Because it's going through the asset swap facility, the distributions do have to be repatriated, and we distribute quarterly, or you can reinvest it.
Greg, thanks so much for sharing your insights around your investment strategy pertaining to the Grindrod Global Property Income Fund. Greg Rawlins from Grindrod Investments. And of course, thank you to Mike. Celebrate exceptional leadership in business in Africa. Nominate your leader of choice today by going to abla2011.com. Closing date, July the 31st. And that's it from me. Please send us your comments and feedback. Our email address is businesstonight@cnbcafrica.com. After the break, join the team for Hot Stocks.